This next lesson is kids, children. Here's a few questions you want to look at when you're thinking about the whole kid, children. Should we have kids? What should we do with kids? Just those different things. So here's the first question: How to create a positive environment for children in your relationship? So this question is basically, or this statement is basically, what type of relationship would you like to have around your children? So, are we going to be arguing all the time? Of course, you don't want to argue all the time. You don't want to let your kids see you arguing because that's not the positive environment that your children should look at or see in a relationship. Because then that's all they'll know, and then their relationships turn out like that. Next, to have or not to have children, that is the question. So this question is based on each specific relationship. So one person may want to have kids, one person may not want to have kids. So just finding that common median between what are we going to do? You discuss it, you come up with a conclusion as to what you want to do, and you go for it.
And
Next,
let me just add that that question there is a question that should be answered before the relationship gets heavy. You don't want to get heavy into a relationship and now the two of you love each other very much so and you have a happy and successful relationship and then one person says I'm ready to have children but the other person doesn't want any children. Um if someone gets in a relationship and they don't want children, chances are you probably aren't going to change this person's mind on having children because there is an underlying reason why they don't want to have children. So if you don't tackle that problem in the beginning of the relationship, it can cause a head on collision in the middle to end of the relationship. You don't want this question to be to become an issue within your relationship and ultimately make the relationship sever because this question wasn't answered in the beginning.
right, right. That's a good one. Then the next one is how to continue parenting even to teen children or even to teen kids. So with teens, oh man, I know so well because I have nephews and nieces. My kids as well, they do it, but this what I'm talking about is they try to play the mother against the father. Perfect case in point. Mom, can I go to the store? No, you can't go to the store. Okay. Dad, can I go to the store? That right there playing the parents against each other, that's what most teen children do. And then coming up with a plan as to how you're going to deal with that is very vital to the relationship and also the teen children.
Yes, because you can't allow the children to cause a ruckus within your relationship. If you allow this behavior in the beginning, it's only going to get worse towards the end. So that behavior, if you are someone who is getting into a relationship and the children have the person has stepchildren, or if the person had children of their own, I'm sorry, this now becomes your stepchild. And that stepchild may not want their father or mother to be in a relationship. So it's your job as the girlfriend or the boyfriend to then show them that I love your dad, I love your mom, and I'm going to love you just as equally as I love them. You don't want to come into a relationship and make the child feel that they're not just as important as their mother or father is to you. So you got to be very careful with that.
Right, right. And this next one is very, very crucial to understanding who your child is. So this can go into different parts, but one of the main parts I want to focus on is you have to really understand who your child is. And this is the aspect that I'm talking about. You have to understand that if your child's not a college student, don't make your child go to college. If you know that your child doesn't thrive in school right now, just save yourself the here's another one, sports. If you were big into sports and you played basketball or football or hockey or whatever, don't expect for your children to, be as good as you are in sports, or don't push them to do sports or play sports if they don't want to, or if you don't feel like they are sports worthy.
Right. It's better to allow your child to take the lead and see where they go. Prime example, our middle child, she's very skilled and she always loves to be in front of the camera and things of that sort. She likes acting and gymnastics and all those type things. So as a parent, it's our job to help develop her talents, but it's not our job to push her to the fact that she now hates whatever it is that she's doing. So understanding who your child is just physically viewing them and watching them and seeing who they're becoming and helping guide them in a good way to become whoever they are and help you see who they are and help you better understand who they are.
And it's also important to know your role as a biological parent. You should know the exact things that you need to be doing as a biological parent. So, if these are things that you've learned from your parents or your grandparents, or you learned from what your parents or grandparents didn't do, those things are things that you should be doing as a biological parent.
Right. And let's face it, we as parents learn every day. We are learning daily as our children are growing. You are also growing as a parent. And if you don't have any children, you will learn this. Once you have children, if that's what, your heart desires, then you will see this too. But as parents, you grow daily with your children and you're learning every day. And so we just want you to monitor whatever it is that your child, is doing. And what we don't want you guys to allow is any negative behavior to come in between what it is that you have with your mate to ruin whatever it is that you have. We want you to be able to see who the child is, figure out why they're doing what they're doing, figure out if they have positive behaviors, if they have negative behaviors, whatever kind of behaviors they have, and just determine what is it that I can do as a biological parent, a step parent, a guy friend, a girlfriend, whoever you are, is your job to figure out what can I do to help better this situation.
Here we go into non biological parenting.
What we want you to do is understand your role as a step parent. I'll give you a quick story on this. I know a person who went into the relationship and these two loved each other. They really went in, but the children were of their teenage years and one of them was actually into their adult years. But they were already stuck in their ways. The children were already stuck in their ways. And this person came into the relationship thinking that they were going to change the children. That wasn't successful for them. And in the end, it ended up, causing the relationship to sever. Because you can't, if you come into a relationship as a step parent, you can't expect to change children. Your only job and your only role at that point is to do whatever it is to make those children feel the same love that you had for their parent is the same love that you should show them. You can't come in expecting to have something other and to show something other.
Next is what to determine before getting serious in a relationship where children are. So basically, this is the discussion you want to have with your mate. You want to have a discussion with your significant other about what they'd like your roles to be in a relationship. So, do they want you to be like uh the biological dad? Do they want you to be like, and I'm talking like myself. Do they want you to be like that strong person? Do you want them to discipline that child? The specific things are going to be different for each and every relationship. So you want to have that discussion before you actually get into a serious relationship, because you don't want to get into the relationship and then find out they don't want you to be that disciplinarian.
Right. You want to determine if it's okay for you guys to play good cop bad cop in essence, right? You want to be able to determine, hey, I know I'm not the dad or I know I'm not the mom, but is it okay for me to play that role with your children? You may have gotten into a relationship where the parent passed away, or and so there was nothing bad that happened. The mom didn't cheat on the husband, or the husband didn't cheat on the mom, or, there was nothing bad that happened within a relationship besides one parent passing away. So you make this situation with you taking on a new mate may take the children by storm. And it's imperative that you guys discuss it and determine, is it okay for me to act as if I'm going to be a new mommy for them? Or am I supposed to be their friend to start off with? Is it okay for me to say when they do something incorrectly to discipline them? You guys have to figure it out and have that discussion.
Now, this discussion, I know this may hurt a lot of people, but this discussion needs to be discussed with you, that the mother, the biological mother or father, that stepmother or father, and then that biological child's mother and or father. So if there's a and a B, which is the mom and the dad, and then the C, which is the step, that you all three need to have this discussion, because you don't want to get into the relationship and then the biological mother, I'm just going to use mother and father. So the biological mother is telling the stepfather, yes, be a disciplinarian. But that biological father is saying, no, I don't want anybody else being my son's dad. I don't want anybody else disciplining my son. So you all need to come to a conclusion as to how that's going to be ran. I know it may hurt a lot of people, but yes, it has to happen because it's fair.
Yeah, listen, we're so glad and honored that you guys took on this program, because it's very important for us to change the narrative and rewrite the narrative. Oftentimes, a lot of relationships break up and it's not so good. So then when someone introduces someone new, it automatically causes friction. But realize and understand that when a child grows up in a dysfunctional situation, that cycle continues. Now this child who was brought up in dysfunction is now going to grow to have children and bring their children up in dysfunction. So it is our job and your job, now that you took on this program and you're listening to our voices, it is your job to help you rewrite the narrative. You can't let the vicious cycle continue. So like Dwayne just said, it's time for you to, if you haven't done it yet, if you guys have done this, we commend you and we definitely give you a hand clap, and we are very excited that you guys have that understanding with not just the step parent and the biological parent, but with all parties involved. These children have a mom, they have a dad, and now they have a step parent. Now, if the on the other hand, if the biological dad or the biological mother is not present, then that's a different story. But you don't want to have both biological parents present, and then you come in and act like you're taking on the role of one of these parents. It's best for the three of you guys to sit down as a whole and discuss exactly what needs to be done so that these children can be raised in a loving and successful situation and relationship, a loving and successful home.
Well said. Blended families and how to work it to perfection. So, just these basic rules, having a conversation with all three parties, sitting down with the child and discussing them. you know, letting the child know his role or his or her role in the relationship. And then just giving everybody their roles and accepting the roles and then working those roles. That's how you make the blended family and work it to perfection. I mean, there's a lot more rules, and we'll go over them a little more in detail, but these are just a few.
Yeah, because every situation is different. No one knows what your situation is. Just because you're listening to this program, that doesn't give us a that just gives us a bird's eyes view of, what is going that excuse me, that doesn't give us a bird's eye view of what's going on, because we haven't physically sat down and talked to you and figured out exactly what your particular situation is.
Right.
Once we do that, then we can say, okay, here's what needs to happen, or let's try this. Let's try this technique. Let's see if this works. Let's work on that. But all situations are different.
Right, agreed. And then last, maintaining good family ethics as a blended team. So the team is, the biological parents and then those step parents. If those people can work as a good team with good ethics, then the team, that they maintain that good family ethic. So if you know the rules and you understand the rules, you'll work everything to perfection, all the ethics are in line, and then those kids learn exactly what they need to do to not be a part of the statistic or the
Yeah, it's just like a basketball team or any sports team for that matter. But for the sake of examples, because I'm not a sportsy girl, so I don't really know. But it just, if you have a basketball team, there is no I in team, and everyone's job is to play a certain role, right? In a basketball team, you have a point guard, a shooting guard,
okay
what else? What's
center.
a center? You
Hmm.
have all these different people who role is to play a certain whose job is to play a certain role within the team. And although we may not like it, a child has a certain role that they are to play.
Right.
If you have a daughter, she has a role that she plays within that family and within that team. You have a mother, she plays a role. The father, he plays a role. The stepmom or the stepdad, they both play roles. So everyone plays a role. One might be the shooting guard, the other one might be the point guard. You know, dad might be the blocker, if
Right.
that's a,
Right.
a
Yeah,
person,
you just
right?
you just mix football and basketball, but it's
Oh,
fine. It's okay.
I told y'all I wasn't a sportsy girl, but yeah. So it, we just want you to understand it and look at it like that. Like everyone has a role, and the role, the team, in order for the team to be a strong union, everyone has to play their role, and we have to figure out how to get each person to play their role to the fullest and to the best, in the best possible way they can.
Planning for children, A to Z. So prior to having children, you definitely want to have a good plan in line so that once it happens or once you decide that it's going to happen, you're prepared. So just basic things like, yes, I want a child. No, I don't want a child. Knowing the answer to these questions, like knowing if your wife or your girlfriend wants a child, or knowing if your husband or boyfriend wants a child, that's a very, very important thing to know before you start planning your life around the child. Different things like, are we working, or are we in a stable house? Are we both working? Do we make enough? Do we have enough cars? Do we have enough space? um, how's our careers? Are we in school? Different things like that is going to range from situation to situation, but just knowing the answer to those questions is very vital. So this is one of the lessons that we're not going to really go deep into until we know your situation, so that we could show you and teach you exactly what your plan should be when it comes to having children, or if you're planning to have children.
And now for our accountability sheet, we want you to determine what your role is as a parent within the relationship. So, for instance, my dad was always the person who, so sometimes he became the disciplinarian. Most times my mom was a disciplinarian. But my dad's role was always the person who didn't believe that you should make things paramount. If the child did something bad, his thing was, okay, you discipline them and you move on. Don't make things paramount. We want you to determine um what your role is as a parent. Are you my dad, or do you have a different stance on things? And we want you to determine what issues do you have with your children, if any. Is there things that your children do that cause any interference within the relationship? We want you to think about that. If it's not, you are doing an amazing job with your children. If there is some things that we all can, change and grow from, let's work on that. And then the second thing is, what do you think, or the third thing, excuse me, what do you think should be done to fix these issues? So the first thing is um, taking accountability for whatever the issue is. And then the second thing is determining exactly what should be done to fix these issues. Or what do you think should be done to fix these issues? We don't want you to be afraid to list these problems. If there is any problems, we just want you to really think. Don't just go over this, because this is probably one of the most important lessons within this whole program. Um, is children. Children can make or break a relationship. And so we want you to really dig deep into this. And don't be afraid to listen. The only way we can help you is if you actually let us in a bit. Okay? Until next time, help us help you take the madness out of matrimony.